everybody. Dan, bodybuilder from Thailand here, along with
Lance Atlas, formerly of Awaken Aesthetic.
Lance Atlas. We're going to talk about religion today because I grew up Mormon, and Lance grew up with Judaism. And, these are very strong religions that take up a lot of your life. And I'm not a practicing Mormon anymore. So I'm going to tell you guys a quick story about how that happened. So I was raised Mormon by my family, and I went on a Mormon mission, which is supposed to be 2 years, when I was 19. But mine only lasted 9 months. And I'll tell you the reason for this that lasted 9 months is because I had major conflict in my mind about what I was doing out there and about the religion and about me having doubts about whether it was correct or not. And while I was on my mission, what I did was I studied a lot of the founding, the words and the writings and the sermons and stuff that the founding members of the Mormon Church had done, like Brigham Young and Joseph Smith. And so some of the things that I found out, Mormonism is a very cultural religion. When you're born into it, it very much like consumes your entire life and the life of your family. So a lot of people that are in the Mormon religion, if they would, decide not to be, they'd feel like they were going to be completely alone and, no longer able to talk to their family, etc. Like everyone would alienate them. So this is a reason why it's like taboo to like look up any or read any history or church history or anything like that in the Mormon religion, because the leaders tell you, like, don't do that. You might find some things that might make Satan, try to confuse you or something like that, right? And so I did that on my mission, and some of the really disturbing things that I found out were that so Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, he was like a money seeker before he started Mormonism. So he had these stones, right? He had these stones that he had found like in a creek, and said that these stones were magical, and that he would go and tell people, if you hire me, I can search your land for treasure using these stones that I have and make you rich. And so basically what he was doing was, obviously it never happened. And so he would take these people's money and then not supply, what he said that he was going to do, making them rich. And so there was warrants out for his arrests all over New York because of this, as like a scammer. So what after that is, he actually, there's 12 witnesses of the Book of Mormon that say like, oh, we gold plates that the Book of Mormon was written on. And, what I found out from reading some of the early church history is that the founding things about the Book of Mormon is it's like these 12 people saw those freaking gold plates, right? And it says that in the beginning of the Book of Mormon. But I found out through reading church history that, that was actually a lie. They actually had seen it with their spiritual eyes. So what happened was Joseph Smith had them pray and like have a vision that they had seen it, but they had never actually physically seen it the way that it says that they did in the Book of Mormon. And then another thing was that I found out that Joseph Smith translated those gold plates, into the Book of Mormon. They were like scriptures, the gold plates are what the scriptures, the Book of Mormon was written on. And he translated them using those stones that he was using for fraud for the money seeking thing. Those same stones, he still had them and still believed they were magical. And he used them. What he did was he went in a different room than his translator. So his translator, his scribe, the person who wrote down the words that he said, to make the Book of Mormon on the paper, he wasn't allowed to be in the same room as Joseph Smith when Joseph Smith was translating. He had to be like behind a curtain. So even he couldn't see the gold plates. It was secret. And Joseph Smith would get a straw hat, like a farmer's hat, and he would put the stones into the hat, and he wouldn't even have the gold plates, the Book of Mormon, there with him, but he would bury his face into the hat with the stones in it, and then he would start saying scriptures, and basically he was saying like this is how he translates the gold plates, because he doesn't need the gold plates. The whole tenet of Mormonism is that the Americas, where the Jews had sailed to the Americas, a new people here, and those people had become the Nephites and the Lamanites, and they're the people who are the ancestors of the Native Americans. So to Mormons, all the Native Americans are Jewish descendants. The Native Americans in all of America are all Jewish descendants, and that was then challenged because they took DNA samples of all of the Native Americans, and there's no Jewish blood in their DNA. It all comes from Asia. And then now the prophecy is that, you know, the reason why there's a lot of like Mormon missionary work in the Americas and in South America and everything is because they are there's a prophecy in the Book of Mormon that says that if you those people are going to be able to, they're all going to come back to Mormonism. You know, all those apostates, you know, the Lamanites are going to come back to Mormonism, and that's why the missionary work is like really hot, like in South America and stuff. But then, you know, these fundamental tenets of Mormonism are challenged big time, and, you know, destroyed by things like, you know, DNA evidence, and the fact, you know, that Joseph Smith was doing, you know, very fucked up things. And so I talked about several key points that really, really disturbed me and made me question, you know, like, what the fuck am I doing? Because like I was miserable, like on my mission, and I never enjoyed Mormonism. The only reason why I went on that mission, be a Mormon missionary, is because the culture. It's like, you are a failure, and you are not worthy of living anymore, and your family should alienate you if you don't go on your mission, right? So like I felt like this is what I have to do, and I've been being programmed since I was born that that's what I have to do. But anyways, because I had, you know, been learning about this stuff, I felt so conflicted in my head that I fell into a deep depression, man, like deep on that mission. And I just had a constant headache. I felt I was in total hell. I was in a living hell, preaching the gospel that I was born to believe to other people, and thinking, I feel like maybe I'm ruining these people's lives because, you know, I'm not happy as a Mormon. So now I'm teaching this, and maybe I'm, you know, spreading this like thing that has like diseased my mind to other people, or made my mind feel diseased at that current time. And so then I started having you know, these symptoms of this deep depression that I had were, you know, very evident, and they were making it so that, you know, my companion, because the Mormon missionaries are always in twos, you know, it was disturbing him, you know, it was messing up our work, and then the other missionaries in the areas, it was also messing up their work, because I was like a bad influence a little bit. You know? And so my mission president, you know, the guy who's in charge of all the missionaries, he's in charge of like 250 missionaries in the area. He calls me into his office, you know, and he tells me, like, you have to take mental medications, you know, medications for your mind, or you're going to get sent home. And I said, go to hell. And so I got sent home. And so I was only out for 9 months instead of 2 years, like, you know, everybody else is supposed to do. Then I went home. I was still Mormon, but then after like about another 2 years, you know, I was able to, you know, I did a lot more research, tons and tons more research. I just told you a couple key points that were major conflicting, that, you know, made me think Mormonism, you know, what the fuck? The main tenets of the religion are not working. You know, they're not true. This is what I've been taught. And that very bothered me. And but now I'm here today, and, you know, since I released Mormonism from my life, I got rid of so much stress and so much unhappiness and bitterness, and I feel so much better. And that's one of the things that they always told me in the Mormon church, was that, like, if I ever did fall away, that, like, I'd be like Satan's child, and, like, I'd be in total hell and just wanting to come back. But it's been the exact opposite. Like, I have so much more peace in my life. I feel so much more myself, more comfortable, and my life just all around is so much better not having Mormonism in it.
That was a deep story, man. I never heard you talk about that before, so that was really good. I have a lot of questions. I mean, you kind of just like rattled through a lot of information there.
Yeah, go ahead and ask me questions. Yeah.
So do you think that the guy Joseph Smith who started it, you think he was a scammer or a psychopath, or you think he really believed it, or what do you think his actual deal was?
I'm not really sure, whether he believed it or not. It's possible that he was like schizophrenic and stuff like that, because he would have, but I don't think he was. I think he was just a liar, because from the time that he was very young, like in his teens, he was doing this money stuff where he was, scamming people for, fraud, saying, I can use these stones that I found in this creek to seek out gold and stuff on your property. And then he would like have, visions where angels would come to him in the night, or angels would tell him, this is where the gold plates are buried. God and Jesus Christ came down to him in physically, what he says, and that Moses came to him physically. John the Baptist came to him physically, restored the priesthood to the planet through him, because he said, the priesthood was wiped off the face of the earth. And then, these prophets came back, and, prophets from the Bible and stuff, and God and Jesus came to him and said, there's no true church. You got to start your own church. But then there was stuff, like as soon as the church started, like polygamy was, right up in there, and, saying things like, if you don't do polygamy, you're going to go to hell. And, Joseph Smith had, 27 wives right away. And some of them were like 13 years old, 15 years old, 16 years old. And it's like, it just, as soon as I start hearing that, it's like, whoa, that's like every other dude who starts a religion. It's always about sex, power, women, money. It's always about those things. And it's like, that was him.
I'm surprised that he managed to have so much success. Most of those guys don't. I always wondered, like who actually falls for that sort of thing? Like, who actually goes for that? And Mormonism is huge now, right? How many Mormons
They don't tell you about this. This is what I'm telling you, is that these things that I told you, Mormons who have been Mormons for their whole life, they don't know that stuff. Because the Mormon faith, it teaches them, like, do not look into the history. There are things there that are planted by Satan to deceive you. And they say, like, don't look at it. It's all anti-Mormon literature.
So they're trying to like pull the wool over your eyes, basically, so you don't see the truth or see anything else than what they're telling you, and then they try to guilt you out of leaving.
Yeah.
And they put that guilt in you so that if you ever want to leave, you always feel like a part of you is gone.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's exactly right. I don't feel that way, but I think I'm a special case. I think most people who are ex-Mormons feel exactly that way that you said.
I think that's a very common thing that a lot of people do in a lot of different, communities. I think that people need to be a part of something, right? Everybody needs to be a part of something. And only once you get free of everything that everyone tried to condition you to be, can you really figure out who you really are and be yourself. I think being identified with a religious or a racial identity, to me, kind of just takes away from your ability to be an individual.
Exactly. Because they have a purpose for you, right? They have a purpose for your life. They say, this is what the purpose of your life is.
Yeah, exactly. And once you get away from that, you can kind of find your own purpose in life. But I think that's a lot more difficult than just following a path that was preset for you. And they kind of hope that you'll just go down the path that they laid out for you so they could use you. So somebody that you don't even know with some kind of agenda for your race or religion or whatever can use you for their own, whatever they want you to do. And
Yeah,
I've definitely
and that's like really an attractive thing to a lot of people too, because a lot of people do not have purpose in life. A lot of people are working dead-end jobs. A lot of people are involved in corporate slavery, hate their life, and they're like, yo, if there's a second life after this, an afterlife, it's like, I just got to get through this life to get to this second life where, in Mormonism, you're a god. When you die, if you follow Mormonism, you're a god. You get your own planet. You get your wife that you have sex with for eternity, and you make all the children by having sex with your wife that are going to be on your new planet. So
I can't believe people actually buy this shit, dude.
dude, they are devout. They are devout, man. Have you know Mormons? I'm sure you know some Mormons.
I don't know any Mormons.
You know?
You're the only Mormon that I ever met.
Okay.
I guess I see them sometimes on the like the train platform or whatever. They'll I see more Jehovah's Witnesses around here.
I see a lot of those.
But
Mormons in New York.
Yeah, no, I felt a similar thing though with Judaism. I think Judaism is a really misunderstood religion, and I think that they definitely do a lot of that same stuff, like you're saying. They try to guilt you out of it. They always tell you that if you try to leave or you're not religious, a Jew will always be a Jew, and they always put the fear of the Holocaust in you, and they always talk about the Holocaust nonstop. They take you to the Holocaust museums, and they always say that no matter where a Jew goes, they'll always be persecuted. So that's why we have to stick together. So if you don't stick with your own people, if you choose to fall away from Judaism, eventually when there's another Holocaust, you'll just get slaughtered. And if you make any friends outside of Judaism or stuff like that, when that time comes, because they say it will always come, they'll turn on you and they'll sell you out. And they'll kill you. So they put that fear in you, like that you can't leave the community because it's unsafe anywhere but with other Jewish people and in the Jewish community.
That's now, like at this time in the world, that's happening currently.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been happening, and there's always some sort of genocide against Jewish people periodically every couple hundred years. So they always just use the last one to rationalize why you have to keep. And they think that the only way to stop these holocausts is to all become super religious. And then if all the Jews become super religious, then the Messiah will come, and then we won't have to worry about it anymore. But a lot of Jewish thinkers like Karl Marx, for example, have written books about how the only way to stop it would be to renounce Judaism. And if everyone just renounces it, then we can no longer be Holocausted, right? Because there will be Jews. But the religious Jews hate when people say stuff like that, because that would be the death of Judaism if all the Jews decided to not be Jewish anymore. So yeah, it's kind of a similar thing, and they have a lot of crazy beliefs also, about the history of the Jewish people and the whole story. It's very unsubstantiated. Like, one thing that I found out recently is that, so I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, right? So I'm white. But the Jews in the Bible...
That's the same as Albert Einstein, right? Albert Einstein, Ashkenazi Jew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any Jew with white skin, pretty much, is an Ashkenazi type of Jew. So the Ashkenazi Jews, historically... there was a small group of Jews from the original biblical Jews from Judea. And they came over to Europe, and they interbred with the European women, and then they converted the European women, and then they went all through Europe, marrying German women, Italian women, moved over to Eastern Europe and married Russian, Romanian women. And so there was a lot of interbreeding to the point that the people became white. And then after a point, they settled down and they only intermarried with each other. So now the Ashkenazi type of bloodline became its own unique bloodline, but it's different from the original Jewish bloodline.
So it's not the Ashkenazi Jew. That's not like a pure Jewish bloodline. It's a mixture of Jewish from the Middle East with the Europe, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's indistinguishable. You can't find, if you tested an Ashkenazi Jew what percentage of them is actually from the Middle East and what percentage of them is from Europe, because it became like a nation. Like, think of Ashkenazi as like a nation, like German, you know what I mean? Maybe there was a Jewish guy from Judea who came to Germany and converted to Christianity. So now a German guy has some of his blood, but he's not technically Jewish, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah, okay.
so the Ashkenazi Jews are pretty much at this point just fake white people who are role playing as Jewish people. When you go to Israel, you see what real Jewish
That's,
people look like.
that's so bizarre. Wait, wait, so you mean like more of a Middle Eastern type appearance? Is that what you're saying?
A real Jewish person, like from biblical times, from Judea, which was a real state that existed back in the day under the Roman Empire, those people had their own genetics and they look Middle Eastern. They would be pretty much indistinguishable from like a Palestinian. Like they don't look like white people at all. So nowadays, all the prominent Jews that people know are mostly just Jewish by like religious and cultural affiliation, but are not actually genetically related to those Jews, the real Jews from the Bible, much at all.
Oh, really? Because as far as I know, that's a big deal. Because as I've read in the Bible, it was really like there's the Jews and the Gentiles, you know, and it's like really important for within the Jewish religion in the Bible. It seems like to be, you know, the Gentiles are the bad people if you're not Jew, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I feel like this group of white people who say they're Jewish kind of just took the Bible as a justification for their actions and identified themselves as being Jewish. When I went on the birthright trip, for example, there were multiple people, I'd say like 3 out of 30 of the people on that trip
You've
that
been
were
to Israel?
not, yeah, I went on the birthright trip to Israel, right? And 3 out of the 30 people in my group were not technically Jewish as like born Jewish. They were just said that they were Jewish. They converted to Judaism, right? But they were just white people who converted to Judaism. And in 100, so they have no Jewish blood at all. If you tested them, there would be 0% Jewish blood. But in 100 years, there will be no way of knowing that they weren't Jewish. Their kids will think that they were Jewish and they will justify saying that they're descendants of the children of Israel, but they are in no way Jewish at all. They're just white people who said that they're Jewish, who converted. So,
Oh, okay. Okay, there's something kind of similar to that in Mormonism, because everyone has to be in Mormonism in order to like go to heaven. Because from Israel, in the story, you have to be adopted into the house of Israel, into the house of Abraham, if you don't have that blood already in Mormonism. So it's like if you don't, they give you like a blessing where they proclaim you, like through the inspiration from God. The guy who like gives you the blessing says what house of Israel you belong to. You know how there's like, I think there's 12 houses of Abraham, right? Something
yeah,
like that.
like many of
Yeah,
them were lost and all
yeah.
that.
And so they say that since you don't have that blood, you get adopted into one of those houses of Israel through this blessing in Mormonism, and then you can go to heaven.
Yeah, so basically when I found all this out, I was just like, it all really seems like bullshit to me, and it's built on very faulty logic, and like a lot of the logic was built thousands of years ago before we had modern science, and these people didn't even know all these things about genetic testing and like all this different stuff until recently, and now we know that all this stuff, and as a modern educated person, you start to see the holes in the arguments that they're using, and you're just like, I can't identify myself with this or believe this because it's obviously untrue, or it's not completely true. So how could I live my life honestly identifying with this if I know that it's, it has logical fallacies in it all over the place? So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, a lot of times too, those when you do point out those logical fallacies and stuff, this happens in Mormonism. I'm sure it happens in Judaism as well. is that the diehard believers will try and cut you down when you tell them about these logical things that you're saying, like, hey, like there's some errors here, you know, like this doesn't fit together. And you say, there's a problem here, I have a problem with this, and they'll say to you, oh, well, you know, Satan is trying to deceive you. He put these, you know, these tricks are here, or these little like hiccups are here, you know, for to be able to, if you were Satan, what would you do? You know, you put those little things there in the story to try and deceive people. That's like a common argument to say, you know, don't try to fight against the history and stuff.
Yeah, in Judaism, they don't really make arguments of like Satan type of thing like that, because they don't really believe in Satan. But the rabbis are really have high verbal IQ, and they'll argue with you all day. And there's really no way. I mean, they're usually pretty smart, and there's really no way around it. It just, in my experience, it just comes down to like a difference of opinion. And they'll just, and if you, once you reach that point where you can't argue anymore, they'll just say, you know, you're not a real Jew, you're betraying your people, and when we all get slaughtered, you know, you're gonna bring us to the chopping block, and like it's fucked up. They just try.
That's cryptic. That is fucking cryptic.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like that's what religious people do. That's kind of the same thing as the Satan argument, because they're just using the end, you know what I mean, to justify the means. And that's what all these religious people do. They try to, all their thing is built up to put fear, guilt, and shame into you for, you know, for thinking for yourself. And they act as if you can't think for yourself. If you think for yourself, it's a huge mistake, and there's going to be grave consequences to thinking for yourself, you know?
Yeah. You know, one thing I do want to mention, though, we're coming up on 30 minutes here, so I want to do another 5 minutes or so talking about this, is that religion has great effects in people's lives. Like, you know, Mormons are good people. Because the fact that the church, you know, it doesn't take a lot of time talking about those fucked up origins, but the fruits, you know, that it has, like good family values, you know, bringing a community together, teaching you to love your neighbor and things like that. You know, they're generally really good people, and religion has value in society. And I'm sure that it's the same thing with people who are members of the Jewish religion, is that I'm sure that it helps them be really good people. It instills them with morals and all this stuff, you know. So religion isn't just, you know, some bad negative thing. It does have like really valuable facets to it.
It's true. It does help people be good people as we would perceive it. But I also think that we perceive that they're good because we were raised to think that those things are good and better than other things, like family.
Aren't more morals valuable to you, man? Family values and
I mean,
selfishness?
to me they are, yes, but it's because I think it might be largely because I was raised in that context also. Like to people who weren't raised religious, I don't see those things being as important to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but those people, I don't think that people that are, you know, self-centered and very selfish, thinking about getting gain, you know, constantly trying to leapfrog ahead of their neighbors and things like that. I don't think those people are living satisfactory lives. I don't think that lifestyle is giving them a lot of satisfaction.
I agree with you. I think that religion really puts a lot of the right values into people, and it instills them hard. And I think in a way it instills the right values more than it instills, you know, negative things. Like they say that you can't go away from it, you can't fall away from it, but the things that you really retain are loyalty, faith, you know, and these are things I still carry with me that I think are positive that I learned. I still have faith in God, you know, I still have faith in whatever creator. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a, you know, normative sort of Christian God idea. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that when I fall, I can get back up because I have that positive force behind me that I think a lot of people are missing. And I think religion really does a good job of teaching you to be a good person and to stand by others and to have a community and to build a community and to be honest. But I think it's a process of divorcing those positive aspects from the negative aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Man, it's great that we're able to talk about like some of this stuff like this, because I feel like we've had unique experiences. We've lived kind of parallel lives on, at opposite locations and with opposite circumstances. But a lot of this stuff we can relate to each other on, and it's like, it's nuts.
I think a lot of people will relate to this as well. I think coming into the 21st century, there's going to be a lot of people who want to learn how to redefine their lives and morals without religion, and but still be good people, because people will always be interested in that.
Yeah, actually, I want to mention Thailand and Buddhism, and also the Philippines and Catholicism. The Philippines, those people are bound together by their faith in Catholicism. And Catholicism has a lot of problems, but I see a very, very positive effect of Catholicism in the Philippines. And a similar thing with Buddhism in Thailand is I bounds those people together. They have this common religion, this common faith. Even if they don't actually believe in the religion, it doesn't matter. It's like they do it for cultural reasons, or do the rituals or whatever for cultural reasons. And I mean, I'm sure that you saw it when you were in Asia too. It has a massive effect on bringing those people together.
I think Buddhism is awesome. I mean, I have my Buddha right back there. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I just have it over there because it reminds me of Thailand. And like you said, what I saw there and the positivity that I saw from the people there, and I think that Buddhism was good. I mean, if I was born a Buddhist, I would probably think a different way. I met a girl who was born a Buddhist and raised a Buddhist in Thailand, who told me all about the dogma there and how they, tried to do the same sort of thing that we're talking about to her and her family. And the monks, had their own system of what they thought was right and wrong. I feel like it's romanticized a lot in the West because we don't really get it. But I'm sure they have their own, inside corruption. But I think that a lot of the things that Jesus said, a lot of the things in the Bible and that Buddha said are great. But I think that every religion has like a piece of the puzzle that needs to be put together for us to really have a holistic understanding. And when you box yourself in, I feel like you can't get as good of a perspective overall.
Agreed 100%. And that, guys, is why it's invaluable to travel the world, travel different countries, be exposed to as many different cultures as you can. Because when you can observe these people and their natural cultures like this, and take these good qualities that each of them have, each of their religions have, and apply them to your life, and it opens your mind in a way that nothing else can. Traveling and exposing yourself to different cultures, different religions, etc., is something that there is no amount of money that could replace that for me. It's just absolutely priceless for my mental development.
I agree, and I think that's a really healthy mindset to have. And I think that if you travel to all those places on Mormon missions, you might not be able to have that same open-mindedness, and you would not gain as much from those experiences if you were already set in what you think and what you believe.
Yeah. All right, guys. So this is Dan, bodybuilder in Thailand, from bodybuilderthailand.com, and we've got Lance Atlas. All right, he's coming out with his website soon, guys. So, formerly of Awaken Aesthetic, he's coming out with a new website. All right, so be looking for that. All right, you guys take care. Everybody have a good one.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, guys. Peace.